Yo, can everybody hear me? Is this thing on? We'd like to, you're seeing a lot of work has been taken care of already. A lot of words spoken. You've seen some blankets given away. But we have another, we'd like to call this man up for a second time. He's that important to us, David Boxley. We'd like to really hold you up and show great appreciation for the language and songs that you're keeping alive for your Tsimshian people and for your families. So Longhouse would like to take a moment to acknowledge you and especially recognize you right now. Thank you.
Samoiget simgiget sigedam hana khaniget will gakoidik sa amawabaqwa aplul amrogodu dual inam that amawasqwa thordism da nagodu adat sinyal godana ananu the go will the Lord amsian Aka wilayu khani get it will needs a go will a double. The al thordism the khani snoosim doaxism Evergreen Longhouse at a ama get them hathal sigwa the muginam the ama Florida the knew you Shageon. I want to thank you very much for this honor. I hung around all day today just because of curiosity, wanting to see everything that was being done, not because I was going to get a gift. We're honored, my people and I were honored to help open the day and to be a part of it. My grandmother and grandfather were full-blood Tsimshian people who were born in the 1800s, raised me. Ayelt kanu, dumwilmenya pasu na negetku. I was lucky to be raised by my grandmother and grandfather. And they're with me today. I feel the good weight on my shoulders of their influence. Thank you very much.
So for those of you who are watching us give out these blankets and you want to get one and go home and snuggle with your honey with on, they are for sale in the back. So go ahead and pick some blankets up.
Oh. So with that, this was handed to me earlier in the day and we've been steamrolling and going right along here. There's an announcement that Laura would like this read out loud. So I do speak English. So I'm going to attempt to read this. I don't never read. Whenever I'm up here and I speak, I shoot from the hip. And I don't never read off of papers. That's kind of a bad habit of mine. But it says, please announce upcoming event at the Longhouse. The Indigenous Climate Justice Symposium will be held here at the Evergreen State Longhouse, not here, maybe over there, at the Evergreen State Longhouse on November 5th and 6th. It'll bring together speakers from Native communities that are working to protect treaty resources from the threat of climate change by keeping fossil fuels in the ground and stopping coal terminals, oil trains, and fracking. Its a major goal would be to get students and youth involved in community-based climate justice efforts. The event is free and open to the public. On Thursday, November 5th, the students are invited to present at the Student Research Day from 10 to 5. There will be a 7 p.m. keynote by Indigenous Environmental Network Director Tom Goldtooth. on how the UN climate talks are a crime against humanity and Mother Earth. On Friday, November 6th, there will be a 10 a.m. panel on fossil fuel connections with Native leaders at both the back end and front end of coal and oil train routes. They include Quinault National President Fawn Sharp on the Grays Harbor oil terminals and a speaker from the source of the fracked oil on North Dakota's Fort Berthold Reservation in North Dakota. They also include a speaker from Lummi of the proposed coal terminal and the source of the coal next to Montana's Northern Cheyenne Reservation. The panel will be followed by afternoon workshops covering what can be done and how people can get involved. The Indigenous Climate Justice Symposium is organized by faculty in the Climate Change and Pacific Rim Indigenous Nations Project and hosted by the Resource Rebels program on November 5th and 6th of this year right here at the Longhouse. And there are flyers on the table by the entrance. Oh. I don't like reading, but again, that's November 5th and 6th, and I think my job here is done today, and I'm going to roll the microphone over to Nighthom, my cousin, my relative, Sonny Goodwin. Thank you. John Goodwin.
Thank you, Wade. And like my cousin Wade, I'm not used to reading either, but what they would like for me to announce today to all of you is the Longhouse primary work as a public service center is to promote Indigenous arts and cultures. Longhouse Assistant Director Laura Crabhorn, who has been with the Longhouse since 1999, will describe how the Longhouse supports Native artists with grants. Laura?
Thank you. While I'm talking, maybe the PowerPoint presentation number 3 can start running. I know we're a little ahead of schedule. That doesn't mean that I'll take longer. Organizations have often posed the question to Native artists, what do you need most? What artists often need, whether they are masters or newer artists, is access to funding that helps them reach their goals. Materials are expensive, gathering traditional materials is expensive, marketing, technology, education, and studio time are huge investments artists make. The Longhouse has directly supported Native artists first with the artist residencies from 1996 to the present, and then in direct grant support since 2005, when the Tulalip Tribe and Artist Trust of Washington funded our first cohorts of artist grants. Since that time, we've offered grants on a national basis and regionally with funding from the Ford Foundation, Native Arts and Cultures Foundation, and our current donor who asks to remain anonymous. Offering grant support is one of our favorite things to do. We want artists to be able to get what they need to take their art to a different level, whatever that is. Artists are in complete control of naming their projects and how they will achieve their goals. Longhouse grants have supported artists as purchasing the right tools for their work, studio time, and instruction time with master artists, as well as film, literature, and music. Our grants have funded artists time to focus on projects that they find important. So far, to date, the Longhouse has awarded more than $500,000 in amount of direct grants to artists. If you've received a grant from the Longhouse, can you please stand? Yay! Thank you to all the wonderful artists who have worked so hard. And in case this sounds appealing to you, our next grant deadline is November 16th, 2015. And the application is easy, and we're here to help answer your questions. You can download the application from our website, which is evergreen.edu Longhouse grant programs. If you have any questions about that, please just give us a call and we'll direct you to where you can find the grant applications, and we're happy to help you through that process. And here's to awarding more artist grants in the future. Thank you. I forgot that I'm introducing the next group. Speaking of artist grantees, one of our sister organizations that is in Vancouver, Washington is for the short, I'm not listing their whole organization name, but our sister organization in Portland, who's always been there for us, and we've been honored to be a part of their activities, the 3 Days of Aloha, Kekui Foundation, led by Diva Yamashiro.
Kalamaya'u, give us a couple minutes, okay? Aloha. Want to mahalo Tina and her Evergreen staff here for having us be a part of today. We are very honored. We'd like to open up with a kahiko, which is an ancient chant called Hana chant. Ha'aheo o hana. Kupu kau iki. Ku'ulelo ke lani. He ali'i. Ka'ahu manula no kamehameha. Huli. Okay, mahalo, you guys. We like to bring Ashley Helemi up here, and she's gonna do a kahili na'i. A kahili is a feather standard which encompasses the royal court. A kahili pa'alima is a hand kahili, and we thought that we'd like to do this song for you because we feel very like this is a place of royalty. Aya. Aya I kalani ke ali'i I ke kupu ohi Ahana no Kauai Aloha ku'aina E vai vai nui ke ali'i Na iwi kuamo Malama I Kauai Malama kale mo kihana o kamali Kahili na'i Puo a o keli maoli I ka ua koko Hari ame ke aloha Hanau kia papa nui Ao hea oe ka pua o kalani Ka ho'opi ka lea Haina ko vehi Hano hano ko inoa o kamali Kahili na'i Ao hea oe ka pua o kalani Ka ho'opo I ka lea Haina ko vehi Hano hano ko inoa o kamali Kahili na'i o kamali Kahili na'i Mahalo. Kahili na'i. We like to bring our keiki. They actually were like 3 and 4 when they started hula, and now they're almost teenagers. And they'll be doing for you a song, Akona Hema. It's also a royalty song, and they'll be using the pu'iwi. Akona Hema. Akona Hema o kalani, na yaka haloa, Ike kalai a ehu e kalani. Akona Hema o kalani, na yaka haloa, Ike kalai a ehu o e kalani. Kamakani. Kahele o Hawaii, malama na motu, ahuvale na kualono, Ike ka pai o pua. Kahele na o Hawaii, malama na moku, ahuvale na kualono, Ike ka pai o pua. E kukuana I ke kai Havana O lela o ka vai hai, hai ana e ka ngā ulu. E kuku ana i ke kai hawana wana. O lela o ka vai hai, hai ana e ka ngā ulu. Kamakani hele ulu ulu. Kukai ai ka moana, ka moana o mahukona. Kamakani hapaa paa, makani hele ulu ulu. Kukai ai ka moana, haina mai ka puana. Kamakani hapaa paa. Lei mai o ko hala, I ka nuku nā kanaka, haina mai ka puana, o ka lani kaulilua. Lei mai o ko hala, I ka nuku nā kanaka, haina mai ka puana, o ka lani kaulilua. I'd like to bring our wahine up for you. And they're going to do for you a beautiful song called Kamakani Kaini Aloha. E aloha, ai ananoa. I kamakani kaulana o ka aina au e ho o he nonei e kamakani kaili aloha. Ku'upua kulei, kumili So once again, we want to mahalo you guys, all of you here tonight, sticking around and having us share with all of you our hula and our love of Hawaii, and for you sharing your culture to all of us. We really, really love that. We're going to end right now. We're going to do a song. So let me say, we have musicians. Only Kini Pella could come today, but I had to pull the dancers, right? The musicians always going off playing all over the place. So she really is a dancer, and she wants to dance. So we're going to do a hula, recorded, and it's called The Wonderful World of Aloha. We mahalo you all. Tina, the staff here, Lindley, Laura, Erin, Heather, mahalo. Aloha to all of you. Spread the aloha. Aloha.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, please. Just for all of you that are still here, and we really appreciate the ones that are here that haven't left, is that there's going to be a giveaway in just a little while. If you see anyone outside standing around, make sure that you let them know that we're not done with this today, and honor the invitation, and please come back in and sit down and listen to these great artists that are here to share their culture with all of us. Thank you. The Longhouse brings emerging and established artists together to teach, and learn with each other through residencies and workshops. Longhouse Program Coordinator and Contemporary Visual Artist Erin Genia, will describe some of this work over the past 20 years.
Thank you, Naitam. Thank you to Diva as well as Kei Kukui Foundation. That was a beautiful performance. Thank you. Greetings. Anpetu Washte, all my relations. It's an honor to be in your presence on this momentous day, celebrating the 20th birthday of the Longhouse. Happy birthday, Squigwial. I want to first acknowledge the Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Chehalis tribes whose land the Longhouse resides upon. Thank you. I want to thank everybody here, everyone for traveling to get here from afar, especially those who helped get our Longhouse where it is today. Thank you so much. It took the efforts of so many dedicated individuals working together to make this dream a reality. We have a powerful legacy to uphold. Recently, I was struck by something that one of our workshop participants, actually a teacher of a workshop, Elizabeth James Perry, who taught a traditional dyeing workshop, said. She said, I was honored by Longhouse Advisory Board members Trudy and Yvonne, who noted with appreciation that I hadn't sat down in 2 days while giving the workshop. Seems perhaps like a small thing, but few people these days truly grasp the sacrifices we all make to learn, preserve, and practice our native arts and lifeways. This touched me because I see it all the time in this work. I see it in my coworkers and their families. I see it in our advisory board members. I see it in the artists who do their work here, and I see it in the people who participate in this work. Thank you to all of you who tirelessly work towards promoting and continuing your cultures, following in the footsteps of your ancestors to provide a strong cultural foundation for future generations, sometimes despite impossible odds. We know our ancestors in the very recent past have not had this opportunity, and that makes this work that much more powerful. Wopida. I want to especially thank the Longhouse staff, also known as the A-Team, for their commitment to the field of Indigenous arts. And I want to take a moment to recognize my sister, Heather, whose work has been essential to making this day special. I also want to thank my family and my children who share me with this work. As a member of the Longhouse staff, I have the unique honor of working with many gifted artists and wonderful people, many of whom are in this room right now. People who actively work to push the boundaries of their art forms into new realms. Their work is based on cultural imperatives, and they are forging a path to make a way for others. Many of these artists have been involved in the Longhouse through teaching workshops and through our Artist in Residence program. I want to share with you some of the amazing things that have come out of these workshops and residencies. Over the years, as part of its mission to promote Indigenous arts and cultures through education, cultural preservation, creative expression, and economic development, the Longhouse Education and Cultural Center at the Evergreen State College has engaged master artists to teach an array of fine art skills to people of all ages. If you're an artist who has taught a community workshop or been an artist in residence, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for your contributions. Arts workshops have brought community members together in a creative spirit to learn and share together. Some workshops serve a very distinct purpose. For example, gift making to provide gifts for the canoe journey potlatch protocols. Some we do on a regular basis, such as the annual youth event, Generations Rising. Some help artists with practical skills and getting their work into the public sphere, like our Native Arts marketing workshops. Many of our workshops are intergenerational, bringing youth and emerging artists together with established and master artists. Workshops have promoted the development of indigenous art forms from the Pacific Northwest, around the Pacific Rim, and across Turtle Island. Longhouse workshops over the years have focused on a variety of media, including printmaking, fiber arts, carving, glass, just to name a few. Using telepresence technology, we've been able to connect artists over great distances. Our collaboration with the Yakima Valley Museum and working with our advisory board member, Miles Miller, and the National Museum of the American Indian allowed for Yakima tribal artists to view the collections of Yakima tribal art housed at the National Museum in DC through a real-time video link connection. Working with the Washington State Historical Society, Salish artists translated woven pieces into the medium of glass, producing beautiful glass vessels at the Museum of Glass Hot Shop. And these pieces will be shown at the Museum of Glass in 2017. The Terrain Plateau Native Art and Poetry Workshop brought plateau artists from different disciplines together to create linocut prints that were combined into books and exhibited at the Evergreen Gallery. The Bentwood Box Drum Workshop, taught by David Boxley Sr., brought traditions to practice, revitalizing an important art form. Artists in residence have included Larry Avakana, who created an umiak in the carving studio, and Nora Naranjo Morse, who worked with local artists to create a school of clay fish to be installed on the Indigenous Arts Campus. Over the years, the Longhouse has worked to develop relationships with Maori artists, an arts organization from Aotearoa, New Zealand, through our Toi Swigwialt residency. Maori artists such as master weaver Tino Widihana, painter June Grant, carver Lionel Grant, have visited the Longhouse to create beautiful work and build strong connections with artists here. Through this same residency, we've also sent artists to New Zealand. Squaxin Island weaver Patty Pune, artist Joe Fedderson, and clay artist Nora Naranjo Morse. The residency program has strengthened the bonds between artists and friends from across the Pacific Ocean. Again, thank you to all who are here tonight, all of our artists, and everyone who has made the dream of the Longhouse a reality. Pidama.
Thank you, Aaron. The Squaxin Island tribe held annually fundraising dinners for the Longhouse and continues to be a major partner with the Longhouse, especially through the Squaxin Islands Museum, Library, and Research Center. The partnership has yielded $250,000 in grants from the NEA's Our Town program, established the first Salish Sea Native Arts celebration at the Port of Olympia. I believe that the Squaxin Island canoe family is, where are you? Come on up. Please, come on up.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Squaxin Island Tribal Council and Squaxin Island people, welcome to our homelands. And also on behalf of my family, the Bagley family, this is where we come from Eld Inlet here. Our family, when we were forced to move on to the Squaxin Island tribe, we stayed there for several years and was able to move back to our areas, and we were able to move back into Eld Inlet, where my brother still and my nephew still live. And so this is a special place for us. And as a young man, Dave Whitener Sr. Exposed me to his vision and his goal and a dream of building this facility here at Evergreen State College. And I remember those cold, rainy, sometimes snowy December nights where we would be cooking fish outside at our old school and old gym, and Evergreen students would come in and funnel the food in. And I've seen a lot of friends today that I haven't seen in a while, but that was something that was a dream of his. A lot of the food that was at those dinners and raising money to start, to collect for this facility, we came out of Dave Whitener Sr.'s pocket and his own family's pocket. The first couple years, he was the one going out and catching the fish for that dinner. And then all of a sudden, the tribe started embracing this a little bit more, and we had other tribal members fishing and catching fish and coming in and helping. And then eventually the tribal council. At that time, we didn't have a whole lot of money. But after a few years, the tribal council stepped up and started providing funds to put that dinner on an annual basis. So I want to thank everybody that's here. This is a great time, and I'm just happy to be a part of this. So thank you.
That song we sang for you was a Seymour Bagley family love song. And, talking with Aswali about that song, about the language in that song, he said, when you say the words, you're saying, Aschle tichach, how is the heart? And the reply to that is, the heart is strong. And when you sing that song, you can sing it as a love song, but not as, it doesn't have to necessarily be a traditional love song, like a man for a woman. It can be like a canoe skipper for his canoe family, or a house leader for his house. Or when you sing that song, you ask, how is the heart? And you ask that question for how is the heart of the home you are in? How is the heart of the land you are standing on? How is the heart of the people that you stand with? And the answer to that is, Aschle tichach, the heart is strong. And when you say it like that, you're saying that together we are strong. The land that we are standing on is strong. The house that we stand in is strong. So those are the words of that song. Aschle tichach, how is the heart? He tichach, the heart is strong. And today, seeing all my friends here, seeing all my family here, so many people that I hold dear to my heart, so many people that I really don't see until I see their faces in this house. And I know that the heart is strong. He tichach. The heart is strong. The bond that we have here is strong, and it's because of this house. It's because of the leaders of this house. As long as I've been coming here, there have been Laura and there's been Tina, and they're strong. Their heart is strong for this house, and it always fills me with so much joy and pride and honor and humility that I get to be here with these two strong women who keep this house going. I remember in 2003 sitting here at the Woodcarvers Gathering when I had this song come to me that never happened before, but it was sitting right over here, right where Barb is sitting. In that area, there was a song that just dropped down and hit me like a sledgehammer. And it's because of the Longhouse that I quit my job as a commercial diver in Seattle. When they hosted the Preston Singletary glass residency. After that residency, I called my boss up in Kirtland, Washington, and told him that I quit. I'm an artist now. And he goes, oh, no, you're bullshitting me. And I go, no, I'm an artist now. Don't call me out on any more jobs. And, because of that action, it led me to learning how to carve with Andrew Wilbur-Saigo, and learning how to weave with Susan Pable, and learning how to work glass with Preston Singletary. So, because of the Longhouse, I've had that lineage of teachers, who have a strong heart for creating not just art, but for creating a culture. So I'm absolutely grateful for that. And I've had the honor of taking a class with David Boxley, who's able to sit here, and I want to call him up here to shake his hand for the work that he's done and to honor him. The next song that we're going to sing are the Seal Companion Song and the Seal Song. Those songs belong to Allah Akalash. You may know him as Bear.
Good afternoon, everyone. It just fills my heart to see each and every one of you here for this awesome occasion. 20 years later, how time flies. I was going to school at South Puget Sound, and I was working with Dr. Dale Crows over there. And I told him, you know, I really like going to school here, but I would love going to Evergreen. I heard that this lady who was from Upper Skagit by the name of Vi Hilbert was going to be teaching here at Evergreen. And I told Dale, I've got to go. I've got to meet this lady. And so he and Colleen Jolly arranged for me to go to school here. And Colleen said, Margaret, you're in. As long as you are Vi's assistant, you will go pick her up every day and bring her down here to class. And I said, I can do that. So I had the pleasure of working with Vi Hilbert and with Hazel Pete and Pauline Hilaire. At that time, they were Evans Chair Scholars here at the Evergreen State College. And there's another family from Macaw, Hotaways. Thank you, Colleen. They were here also, so we were just overjoyed with the elders that we had for those 2 years. So anyway, I was happy to graduate from here in '97, and I went on to work for our Museum, Library, and Research Center at Squaxin Island. It's been a great joy. And now my daughter Jolene has gone to Evergreen and South Puget Sound and has graduated also. And I'm happy to say I have 2 grandbabies here that someday may go to the Evergreen State College. Thank you, Cousin Joe, for inviting me up. And it's just a real pleasure to see each and every one of you. It's good to see you, Yvonne and Trudy. I also got married here, had our wedding reception here, thanks to the Hazel Pete family and Institute. I will never forget that. Thank you, everyone. Hoi.
That song that we just sang for you was called Thank You the Creator, and that comes from Nia Bay from the Green family. So we're honored that Wade could stand here today and sing that song with us. Like he said, his father spent a lot of time traveling between Nia Bay and Squaxin Island to spend time with our drum group. So we're forever grateful to Wade and his family for all the work that they've done with us. In 2012, when we hosted Canoe Journeys, Wade helped compose the paddle warrior song that we opened up our protocol with. He did a lot of work with our drum group, spent a lot of time away from his family to be with ours. So, he's like our long lost brother, except we know where he is, so he's not really lost. And the last song we're going to sing for you is our paddle song. And that song was given to us from Sobier in 2004 during our youth potlatch. So we just want to take this time to say thank you to the Longhouse for inviting us to be here with you folks. And thank you all for being a part of this. Like someone said, hopefully we can be here in another 20 years, celebrating another anniversary. So thank you very much.
Wahalatsu and Jim Peters, please come up here. Wahalatsu. Hello. Joe. You and Jim, up here.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Lindley Logan. A few years ago, Delbert Miller came up with this idea of honoring cultural teachers, specifically those who teach by example. Longhouse staff member and Seneca artist Lindley Logan will review some of the past honorees.
Thank you, Naitam. Before I review some of those past honorees, teaching by example honorees, I want to invite Smut Kum up here to share our cultural perspective and foundation for the teaching by example honoree and how we honor individuals from our communities with this award. Smut Kum, Delbert Miller, thank you.
There comes a time in every house, in every family, in every tribe, there's a leader. There has to be a leader. In our description of it, we use a wolf in our family because the wolf, in a wolf family, there's a hierarchy. And that way, everyone knows who the leader is. And that I would say that how this was viewed, the Longhouse, Squigwealt, was the very first Longhouse in the whole country. And that you can see today it has earned its stripes to show it's walking the talk. It's earned its stripes as a leader in the whole country for the Longhouses at universities and colleges. It's the leader. I'd like to be one of the first ones to say that we need to begin to announce this as the father or the mother house of all the Longhouses in the country at the universities and colleges. It's the very first one. We need to see this Squigwealt as the mother house. And from that point of view, that perspective, we see that there's a lot of grants, a lot of funding that takes place. And that because of the stature of the Longhouse, no longer has to wait and have somebody say who our leaders are, who our teachers are. This Longhouse now it begins to say who the leaders and who the teachers are. And that was the very beginning of the word Saklil in the Tawaduk language. It means to teach by example. Now we no longer have to wait for somebody to approve, to let us announce who our leaders, our teachers are. Squigwealt and the staff here can begin to look around and say, we've funded a lot of artists through the grant work. We've had a lot of people come here and offer classes. Now we know who the teachers are. And the teachers are Saklil, to teach by example, and that means by walking a very good path, a very good life. And from that word Saklil, and the beginning to be a teacher, also begins to say, what we say in our culture, learn how to feed your Indian. To teach It's also to feed your Indian. It isn't just the berries and the roots and the game and fish. It's also to teach, to satisfy somebody within. And so when we say to feed your Indian, an educational concept, that's what Evergreen is doing. We're standing here acknowledging everyone, and that there are people that are rising to the top, teaching the people how to have a good life, to be good artists, to be generous, to be sharing and considerate of others. In our family, we see our artists now, and the weavers and the ones that are harvesting the wild, the food. They're small, and now they're teaching adults. So to teach by example is something that Squigwialt is recognizing those teachers, the ones that are teaching the arts, how to feed their Indians. So saying that, Squigwialt is not waiting for someone to give us approval to say who can we recognize. Squigwialt is saying we'll recognize our own teachers. And that is a statement in itself that Squigwialt has reached a status of its very own as a parent figure, acknowledging the children, acknowledging the teachers and the artists. Squigwialt has reached that status, a parent type status, now acknowledging the ones that are teaching. And that's quite a standard to set. It's quite a thing to say that Squigwialt is honoring teachers, cultural teachers, to continue reaching out to our young people and teaching by example. That is something that's so very important in our culture, to teach by example. And that's how this came to be after a long discussion about this, to acknowledge we wanted to, in a way, have our own Academy Awards. We wanted to have our own award system, acknowledgement system. And there's not a greater wealth than for Squigwialt to stand on its own like that without having to be told anything. And that's having earned its stripes, you might say. So this basic idea of this award, Sashlil's Award, to teach by example, it came about because no longer was a kind of standing there with a hand out asking for approval. Now standing on their own acknowledgement, their own award system, acknowledging those artists that are teaching by example. And when you start looking around, there has to be somebody that shows the way how to do this. And so then Squigwialt is doing that very thing, leading the way, showing how it's done. There are other colleges building longhouses, and they come here and ask, how did you do it? What do you do now? And so they're advising a number of other college longhouses. And so it's continuing and growing, showing how to teach by example. And so that was the basic foundation of coming to Sashlil's Award, or Sashlil's acknowledgement of artists. We had our late uncle, one of the pillars here, our late Uncle Bruce. He was a great artist, but he was also full of humor and pranks and laughter. And so it goes hand in hand. When they have done the Sashlil's Award, was also a Spam Award for humor. It goes all hand in hand. If you look at the old culture, it means that sacred breath that we have. And so I don't want to go too much longer, but just to explain kind of the beginning of how Sashlil came about.
Hayich Kasmutkum for sharing that cultural perspective with all of us so that we better understand our intent in teaching by example and our intent by laying a foundation on our own terms and in our own values for what that means for us, for what that means for our communities. Similar to the song that Joe Seymour sang, Ashklei Tihach, how is the heart? I couldn't help but think in that presentation and his little talk about sharing the values of how the heart is thinking about the world that we stand in is strong, and thinking about the house that we stand in here is also strong. And we're very fortunate that the individuals who are teaching by example in our communities are helping to make our children's hearts strong and our individual houses strong. So one of the wonderful things that I've appreciated about what we're seeing here today, right from the beginning, is when I came into the Longhouse this morning, all the students from Maria Elajaimo's class were here, were helping to decorate the Longhouse. And the event hadn't even started, but yet there was such a phenomenal electric energy and positive energy in the air with all those students contributing their time, their effort, and their energy to help strengthen this house. So right from the start, before anything started, it was already happening here. And so we're very fortunate for all of you for coming here to join us this afternoon, to share your breath, to share your words, to share your songs, to share your dances, to share your stories, because you all strengthen this house, and our hands are up to all of you for strengthening this house. Could I have that first slide, please? As Delbert mentioned, we started giving a Teaching by Example award. This is part of that Teaching by Example award. We're very fortunate to have teamed up with Squaxin Island. They've got some equipment over there that allows them to do some laser burning and etching. And so these are the awards that they've helped us create in regards to honoring individuals from our communities. And so as you see in 2012, Fran and Bill James from the Lummi Nation, who are master weavers, were honored as our very first recipients of the Teaching by Example award. As you see, Pete Peterson, who's Skokomish, who a lot of folks don't realize Pete is a jeweler, but he started out as a jeweler for 10 years before he actually started carving. And a lot of people really recognize Pete's contributions as a carver. I was very fortunate through one of the Longhouse workshops in 2005 to have taken a bent wood box making workshop in Pete's studio out there at Skokomish. So it was a really wonderful way to be able to interact with Pete as an individual, as an artist, but also to see the strengths in which he contributes to teaching by example in our communities. So here you see Fran and Bill James. Fran James, unfortunately, who's no longer with us, so we're very fortunate here at the Longhouse and in our community and our extended community to have been able to have recognized her for the exemplary contributions to life that she contributed in regards to teaching by example. As you see here, Pete Peterson. And then in 2013, Karen Reed, who is a Puyallup tribal member who also served on the advisory board for the Longhouse and is a master weaver, was recognized with our Teaching by Example. And Florian Tiny Burrill, who's Tlingit, I believe Tiny is here. Tiny is one of the only Teaching by Example honorees that are joining us here today. You see here a picture of Karen Reed. Karen actually did a wonderful thing for us when we had the grand opening of the wood carving studio. We wanted to be able to cut a ribbon, but we wanted to be able to do that in an indigenous way, from an indigenous perspective with indigenous values. So we asked Karen Reed to weave 2 cedar bark strips that are very long. And then what we did was we created a ribbon in between those 2 strips and we cut the ribbon. And so whenever we do another opening, like we did a dedication for the fiber art studio, we use that same cedar woven pieces And so every time when we open up another structure or another aspect of the Longhouse, like to the Indigenous Fine Arts Campus, we'll continue to use those cedar ribbons as the primary pieces that we will then cut. And here you see Florentino Tiny Baril, who's Tlingit, who is the leader of the Alaska Kutia Dancers, who will join us as soon as I'm done with this presentation. So we're very fortunate to have Tiny Baril and the Alaska Kutia Dancers here. Wonderful picture of Tiny Baril dancing here at the Longhouse. In 2014, last year, we recognized Elaine Grinnell, who's Jamestown Sklallam, who is a storyteller. A lot of people really only know her as a storyteller, but she's much more than that. She's a master weaver also, and she really also encourages the strengthening of their community's cultural traditions along the lines of traditional ecological knowledge, food knowledge, resource knowledge. So she's a phenomenally well-rounded Renaissance woman when it comes to an example of teaching by example. Roger Fernandez is Lower Elwha Sklallam. Roger is a artist, and he's also a oral historian. He is very well known in regards to relating not only our oral traditions, but oral traditions of other people's communities. And we're wonderful to be able to invite Roger Fernandez into the Longhouse on a number of occasions when we want to share a concept of raising the roof or pushing up the sky. So for instance, when we had our wood carving studio opening, we shared that story of pushing up the sky. Roger shared that with us. And we have everybody come in, we join, and we have these poles. And Roger relates that story. We use that story to say together we're pushing up the sky, or we're raising the roofs. We're expanding the Longhouse. We're building upon our strengths, and we're building upon our strengths for the future. So Roger's been wonderful in assisting us with doing that. And here you see Elaine and Roger. Elaine Grinnell. Another picture of Elaine. Roger Fernandez here accepting his award. And this is a break from our serious routine. We're not always serious here, but when we are serious, we can be serious in a funny manner. Ed Edmo was the individual who's the visionary of this SPAM award. The SPAM award is a very special person award memento. And in Ed Edmo's words, Ed Edmo is Shoshone-Bannock, he's a storyteller. Ed Edmo would say, the SPAM award, or the Special Person Award memento, is a very, very, very special award. As I said, it was created by Ed Edmo, who's Shoshone-Bannock. And Ed created this award to be given to an individual who is deemed spammy enough to receive this award. And it probably might help if I kind of read this in a NPR type voice. If anybody, have you heard any of those NPR skits? It's the spammy is an indigenous adjective or term, much like in the jargon. Not a specific cultural adjective, but one we can all relate to. The bearer of this SPAM award possesses traits that embody this Special Person Award memento, and these values embody humor and the ability to make us all laugh. Laughter is medicine, and laughing together is good medicine. Okay, enough of the NPR skit. So, in honor of Ed Edmo's vision and recognizing the good medicine of laughter to the creation of the SPAM Award, we share with you our SPAM Wall of Fame at the House of Welcome. Let the history books show that Tina Kukan Miller was the very first recipient of the SPAM Award as presented by visionary of the award, Ed Edmo. Tina, if you like, this is your opportunity to do a victory lap. From that point in history on, Tina ran with the Spam Award honor and proceeded to build her Spam honoree family and empire. As I said, we offered Tina the opportunity to do a Spam victory lap, and she said no thank you. Cecil Chica, who is Macaw, who was in the house earlier, was our second Spam Award winner. Cecil was selected and recognized as the second Spam Award honoree in 2012 through Tina's empire building here at the Longhouse Community Dinner in 2012. Cecil's not here, otherwise we would invite Cecil to do a victory lap, a Spam victory lap around the Longhouse. And in 2013, we almost had an epic battle over the Spam Award. Little story is we asked our first choice recipient, Arnold Littlehead, pictured here, to accept the award. And when we didn't receive a response from Arnold, we figured we needed to look for another individual who was worthy. So we asked another individual. After we asked the second individual, Arnold Littlehead called us up and said, "Hey, I want that Spam Award." And we said, "Oh, we apologize. We offered it to somebody else." And Cecil, or Arnold literally said, "I'll fight for that award." So Cecil definitely brought the humor to demanding and wanting that award so bad that we all appreciated Arnold, as you see here, with his victory in hand. So considering that we were able to honor Arnold Littlehead, who also is no longer with us, we're very happy that Arnold was able to join us in this great little bout of humor that we have here at the Longhouse through the Spam Award. So in 2014, we moved back to the individual who we had offered the award prior to, before Arnold accepted, and we recognized Sherrod Yonker. Sherrod Yonker is Coquille. Sherrod Yonker is our 2014 Spam Award honorer. One of the reasons why I appreciate awarding this honor to Sherrod is because if you've ever heard Sherrod, the first time I met Sherrod said, "Oh no, you don't want to give me the mic. That's a really bad idea. Because I don't know what to do with the mic, so I just keep talking and talking and talking. This is a really bad idea." But I heard Sherrod introduce himself 3 more times over about 3 more or 4 more or 5 more years, and every time he gets the mic, he says the same thing. So fortunately, we're not going to offer Sherrod the mic tonight, but when Sherrod... That'll rocket you to fame. Yeah, we might not offer you a victory lap also. But Sherrod was introducing himself at an International Indigenous Visual Arts gathering in Kaikohe, New Zealand last year in 2014. And if you know anything about Maori artists, they refer to their clay artists as muddies. And of course, Sherrod went over there as a carver. And in Sherrod's introduction at this International Indigenous Visual Arts gathering, he said, "Hey, what's the deal here? You know, these muddies got a really cool name. It's like, how come the carvers don't have a really cool name that they could go by? So for instance, you know, I mean, you guys could call us peckers, as in woodpeckers." So I always like to ask Sherrod whenever I see him after he made that remark, "Are you a big pecker or are you a little pecker? Are you a good pecker or are you a bad pecker?" So like Sherrod said, you know, if you're interested, Sherrod, you're more than welcome to do a victory lap. So or if you'd like, you could also maybe do some Jack Palance one-arm push-ups to accept your Spam celebration and kickoff. So we'd like to say to Ed, to Ed Edmo, Tina Kukan, to Cecil Chica, and to Sherrod Yonker, who are with us this evening. As for Arnold Littlehead, our hands are extended up in honor and memory of Arnold Littlehead, who is no longer with us and accepting the SPAM Award. And we extend our thanks and laughter to all of you, SPAM honorees, for being the game changers in the cycle of life and laughter. Thank you for spamming along with us this evening. And here's to wishing you all, get your spam on this evening, because we are scanning the horizon for our 2016 honoree. So spam on, everyone. Thank you. But before I step away from the podium, it's a pleasure for us here at the Longhouse to invite Tiny Burrell Plinkett and his Kutia Alaska Native Dance Group. And again, Tiny Burrell is one of our Teaching by Example honorees and recipients. Alaska Kutia, the floor is yours.